Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to show you how to make these dry erase acrylic wall calendars. So I've been seeing these on Etsy and also on Pinterest, and the price tag on them are a little out of my range. They can go from $90 to $150 depending on how big you want them. In my case, I wanted 2 of them, and so I figured maybe I can try to make them myself. So for this tutorial, I am going to be using my Cricut machine to cut out the shapes and some of the letters, but obviously not everyone has a Cricut, so I will list some options down below for you if you want to use that route instead. But either way, I think anyone can try out this tutorial and make a really awesome acrylic calendar. First and foremost, you'll need some acrylic panels, and I got these from the Home Depot. These are fairly inexpensive. This is an 18 by 24 inch, and it cost me around $11. So before I do anything with this, I'm going to take care of all the hardware stuff first. And so the first thing I'm doing here is I'm drilling holes into the acrylics. So on each corner, 1/2 inch in, I drill a little hole, and that hole is going to be used for mounting the acrylic onto the wall. Okay, so the biggest tip that I would have to throw out there is that when you drill through acrylic, you have to start with the smallest drill bit that you have and then work your way up to the screw size. Do not drill immediately into it with the screw, because it will crack the acrylic and it will make you sad bare face. Another thing to note is that the acrylic sheets do come with a plastic sheet on top and on the bottom of it to keep it from being scratched. It actually acts as like a resistance so that when you're drilling through, it's less likely to crack. So once I mount the calendar, I do want it to be floating a little bit away from the wall, otherwise there's really no point in it being an acrylic calendar. So I figured I'm going to mount it with the Jenga blocks that I got from the Dollar Tree. And since there's a lot of pine in my craft room, I figured that, these blocks would just tie everything in together very nicely. So what I do is I take 4 of the Jenga blocks and I drill a hole right in the middle of each one of them. And again, as you can see here, I'm starting with the smallest drill bit first, working my way up to the size of my screw. And I'm doing this because the Jenga blocks are quite small, and I don't want the giant drill bit to split the Jenga blocks in half. Okay, so then on another 4 pieces of Jenga blocks, I'm going to attach a thin piece of magnetic strip to each one of those right in the center. Okay, and then I set all of this aside. I know it seems kind of like confusing, like how are you going to mount this to the wall, but I'll show you at the very end. So I did use my Cricut to cut out all the letters, the shapes, and the lines. Now, if you don't have a Cricut, you can simply use mailbox vinyls or address vinyls that you can get from Home Depot. They're like $2 or $3, and it's different letters and numbers. For the lines on the calendar, you can obviously use duct tape, washi tape, any thin lined tape, or foil tape, or any craft tape that's thin enough that you can just mark out all of the lines. So here I am just weeding the vinyl away from the cut image. Now the thing about having a Cricut is that you have a little bit more control on how you want to format the calendar to look. So I can make the months to be a lot bigger, or I can make the days to be smaller. When you buy store-bought vinyl, you might not have that option or as much customization. So that's just kind of like the downer of that. I do think that the store-bought ones is a little bit easier, because it did take me a little bit too much brain energy to come up and design a format for this. So just a little pro and con there. Okay, so on my Cricut, I can cut out some of my images to be on one full sheet, and so if I want to apply it onto the acrylic, I can just apply the whole thing on instead of the individual letter. And how I do this is I'm going to use a contact sheet, and I peel it away from the paper backing, and then I press it right on top of the vinyl. And then I press down onto the contact paper to make sure that it's really making contact with the vinyl, and then I will apply that later to the acrylic panel. So I also cut out some circles, and these are going to be kind of like little circles for the dates, and then I also cut out some lines, and this is going to be what I use to section out each single day on the calendar. Okay, so back to the acrylic panel that already has the 4 holes on it. Decide on which side is going to be the front of your acrylic. And to make it easy, I like to use the side with the barcode sticker on it. What I do is I just grab the plastic sheet and I pull it off of the acrylic, and you can just see how beautiful and glossy and shiny the acrylic panel is. So before I apply the vinyl to it, I'm just going to give it a quick wipe down with the dust wipe. Okay, so going back to the months where I already have the contact paper attached to it, I'm going to carefully peel back the vinyl paper backing, and as you can see, the vinyl is now stuck to the contact paper, and now I can apply that to the acrylic. The acrylic is that it is see-through, so if you have a big cutting board like I do here, I just square up the acrylic panel and I just follow the lines that's already marked on the grid. Now, not everyone is going to have a large cutting mat like I do. So if you want it to be straight, obviously on the back side of the acrylic, where there's the other plastic coating, you can go ahead and mark all of the lines on where you want all of your letters and numbers and lines to go. Obviously, it's going to be one extra step for you, but if you can make it nice and straight, it just looks better. Luckily, I didn't have to, so that's very nice. And here I'm also laying down the days, and then I use a scraper to really press the vinyl onto the acrylic. A credit card works really well here as well. And now I gently peel the contact paper back, and these steps are only necessary if you're going to be using a Cricut to cut this out. Obviously, if you're going to use individual store-bought letters and numbers, you're going to completely skip these steps and just apply them down one by one. Okay, I'm sorry, my head is going to be in frame a couple of times here. I didn't realize how how I needed to be really close to this thing to get a perfect line. So I'm just using some of the strips here to lay down the lines on my calendar. Again, here you can use duct tape, like a very, very thin line duct tape. You can also use washi tape. And then there's also something called whiteboard grid liner. So it's pretty much like a washi tape that's made of vinyl that you can create grids on a whiteboard. Almost the same texture as vinyl. So there's that option for you as well. And I will link all of those alternatives down below for you guys. So I feel like this is pretty self-explanatory, so I'm not gonna voice over every single little thing that I'm doing here, like peeling and sticking. But before I started this, I did use a piece of graph paper and I mapped out how I want the calendar to look. So I wanted to know how many inches do I want the days to be away from the months, and how many inches do I want each one of the weeks to be. So I did figure out a little bit of math here, and I created the rows for each of the week, and then obviously the vertical lines for each day of the week. Okay, so now I'm going to use these little gold circles here to mark out the area where I want to write in the dates. Okay, so now that everything is on the acrylic and it's looking totally marvelous, it is time for me to mount it to the wall. And before I do that, I went ahead and I peeled the plastic part from the back side of the acrylic off. And to be 100% honest with you, I'm not quite sure if my cutting mat is all that clean, so I placed the acrylic calendar down on a bed sheet just because I don't want it to scratch the surface, because we worked so hard on it and it's just so beautiful. So I went ahead and I just did that while I peeled the backing off. Okay, now to mount it to the wall, super duper simple. We already did all of the prep work for that. So what I did was, obviously you're gonna level it and make sure that it is straight on the wall. And I've already hung the first one, as you can tell on the left here. And what I do is I would put a screw through the acrylic and it will go through the Jenga block like so. And then to cover up the screw so it kind of looks like, it's being taped on the wall by these Jenga blocks, I took the Jenga blocks with the magnets and I just stuck it right on top, and it just adhered itself to the screws. And voila, there it is, my acrylic wall calendar, which is super minimal, super chic. I love the way it turned out, and I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I'm really loving the way this turned out. Probably will be doing a craft room tour sometime soon, because I've been really working hard on making it look nice and homey again for myself. And yeah, you guys, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will catch you in the next video next week. Bye!